Let me ask you a question. What did you want to be when you were a child? It's a question asked all over the world. What do you want to be when you grow up? Children answer with boldness and imagination. An astronaut, a dancer, a singer, a scientist, a writer. Children rarely answer cautiously. They answer from the chest. But for many of us, somewhere between childhood and adulthood, something happens. A comment, a criticism, a moment of humiliation, a disapproving look. And suddenly, creativity becomes dangerous. So today, I want to talk about something many artists and creative people carry quietly. The creative wound and how healing begins. Welcome to the Courage to Create podcast, a creative sanctuary for Christian artists and the wounded imagination. I'm Theodora Songhai, and I'm glad you're here. When I was a child, the answer to that famous question changed frequently. Some days I wanted to be a ballerina, other days a musician, sometimes a jewelry maker, sometimes a graphic designer. Looking back now, there was a clear thread running through all of my answers. Every single one involved creativity. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, my father asked me the question, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I answered honestly and boldly. This answer came from my chest. I want to be a graphic designer. And then in my excitement, I added something else. I want to design album covers. You see, I was born in a time when album covers were a very big deal. One of my favorite album covers to this day is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. The prism, the light, the simplicity. Even as a child, I found it mesmerizing. Music was always present in our house, so I saw album covers from many artists. Fleetwood Mac, The Carpenters, Franco and OK Jazz, and of course the extraordinary visual world surrounding Fela Kuti's music. While other people were drawn to the music itself, I was fascinated by the images, how pictures and typography could tell a story, how visual design could communicate something about the music before you even heard it. Quite ambitious thinking for a 9-year-old, huh? So when my father asked me what I wanted to be, I shared all of this with him. And then something changed. There was a pause, a long one, long enough for me to realize something was wrong. Now, I have only seen my father truly angry twice in my life. One of those moments was this one. I don't remember his exact words, but I remember the tone, the intensity. Something like, "Are you crazy? There is no money in art. I will not allow any child of mine to become an artist. You could be something respectable, a lawyer, a doctor, and you want to draw posters? What nonsense. You will never do it." Then something inside me shattered. Because what is a 9-year-old supposed to do with that? In that moment, 2 silent vows formed in my heart. The first vow was this: I will never share my dreams again. Not with my father, not with anyone. Anything precious in my heart would stay hidden. The second vow was quieter, but even more costly. I will never disappoint my father again. Whatever he wants me to be, that is who I will become. And that vow cost me more than I could imagine. Because in that moment, I learned something else. I learned that being an artist brought shame. Growing up in a West African household, there were 3 respectable career paths: doctor, lawyer, or accountant. And not just any accountant, a chartered accountant. Art didn't appear on that list. Artists were seen as living on the margins. Yet this never fully made sense to me, because so much of the beauty and joy we experienced as a family came from artists. Music, film, television, storytelling. Artists were expanding our world. Artists were helping us imagine possibilities. Artists were giving voice to our stories. And yet becoming one of them was somehow unacceptable. This contradiction was confusing for a child. And so began the quiet suppression of my creativity. I continued to draw, I continued to design, I continued to make things, but those things were now framed as hobbies, never a calling, never a serious pursuit, never something worth dedicating my life to. But beneath the surface, something remained restless. Questions I could never quite shake. Why does this matter so much to me? Why does this desire refuse to disappear and die? Why does it keep returning? A creative wound forms when our natural impulse to create is met with criticism, shame, ridicule, or rejection. Often it happens in childhood. A teacher humiliates a student's drawing, a parent dismisses a dream, a peer mocks something we made, and something inside us learns a painful lesson. It becomes safer not to try, safer not to share, safer not to risk being seen. Over time, the wound can lead to creative suppression, resentment, envy of other creatives, grief over abandoned dreams, a lingering sense that something inside us has been silenced. Many adults who say, "I'm not creative," are actually protecting themselves from reopening that wound. Healing looks different for everyone. For me, it began slowly, very slowly. It began with small joys, les petites joies de la vie, the little joys of life. Surrounding myself with beauty, going to museums, visiting art galleries, paying attention to things that stirred something inside me. And much later, I encountered a book that many creatives know, The Artist Way. That process invited me to take creativity seriously again, to listen again, and most importantly, to allow God into the wound. Because creative healing is not just psychological, it is spiritual. God is not indifferent to the parts of us that have been silenced. He is deeply interested in restoring them. If you recognize yourself in this story, I want to offer you 3 gentle steps. First, name the wound. When did you first feel that your creativity was dismissed or criticized? Second, return to small joys. Notice what draws your attention. Images, music, colors, stories, spaces. Let yourself enjoy beauty again without pressure. Third, create something small. Not something impressive, just something honest. A sentence, a sketch, a photograph, a collage. Healing often begins with tiny acts of courage. If your creativity was silenced by criticism, if your imagination was dismissed or misunderstood, if you have carried grief over the creative life you once imagined, let this be a gentle reminder. The voice that silenced you is not the final voice. Your Creator has not forgotten the gifts placed inside you, and what feels buried is not necessarily lost. Sometimes it's simply waiting for permission to breathe again. May you rediscover courage in small moments. May beauty find its way back to you. And may your creativity slowly return, not as pressure, but as life. If today's episode resonated with you, I invite you to make one simple step this week. Spend 10 minutes creating something just for yourself. No audience, no performance, just curiosity. And if you like more encouragement and creative practices, you can join the Creative Courage Sanctuary community. Website details in the show notes. You can also subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. We're going to explore something that sits at the very heart of creativity: identity. Until next time, create bravely, rest deeply, and remember your creativity is holy. If today's episode encouraged you, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps the sanctuary reach other artists who need it. And if you'd like guided creative exercises, devotionals, and spiritual tools for your artistic journey, visit the Creative Courage Sanctuary website and join the email community. Until next time, create bravely, rest deeply, and remember, your creativity is holy.